started playing video games when I was about 5. I would go home and escape into the video games. So they're a crutch for me. They're my drug. You take away the video games, I will end it. I need them. Alright? I don't enjoy life, but I do my best to keep going for the sake of my family. But this is that stops me from going insane.
The people of China have a written history going back a hell of a long way. The people of India, the people of Southeast Asia, they all had borders, and they were all willing to kill each other for the sake of those borders. And crossing that border would mean the difference between life and death. Boundaries are not real. Consequences are. And by the same token, if a woman says to me in the heat of passion that I can make love to her pussy, but if I penetrate her anally, her husband will kill me, then we have a real boundary. A man like me is hard to find. And that is why so many of you ladies are frankly willing to put up with my bullshit. Any woman watching this video, the odds are you are in a loving relationship with someone who is on the spectrum of morbidly obese video game addicts that runs from Boogie2988 at one end to our old friend Decline at the other.
I know how hard it is. I know how easy it is to just sit at home and play video games and log into World of Warcraft and say, this is enough, I'm happy. I know.
I cannot solve your problems for you, but I can tell you what they are and make you feel stupid for not having solved them already. Every single one of you ladies, every single one has tried to change a man, has tried to improve a man by setting boundaries. But what was thing one in this video? Oh yeah, right, there are no boundaries. There are only consequences. If you want your fat, video game addicted boyfriend to start eating a vegan diet and stop playing video games, the only way to do that is not by setting boundaries, but by imposing real world consequences. Now you can't kill him. I mean, in most jurisdictions. So if murder is effectively off the table, you have to be creative. You have to come up with a strategy to communicate the point clearly and decisively. If you want me to be your woman, this is the man you have to be.
Open borders? No, that's a Koch brothers proposal. The idea, of course. I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of global poor richer, wouldn't it?
Going to make everybody in America poor.
This is something new. Buses filled with migrants from our southern border have just arrived outside Vice President Kamala Harris's residence at the Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C.
Today, illegal immigrants were dropped off outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's home in Washington, D.C. In an interview with Vice News, Harris slammed Texas Governor Abbott and Florida Governor DeSantis, saying, quote, "I think it is the height of irresponsibility, much less just, frankly, a dereliction of duty." Meantime, migrants are pouring over the southern border. Look at this. Our Fox News drone team capturing hundreds of them crossing illegally.
Along a roadway in southern Mexico, a seemingly endless stream of people making their way on foot towards the United States.
I believe it's a crisis that needs more coordination from our country.
New at 6, can you compare the treatment of those in the migrant caravan to the Holocaust?
It's a back and forth, a social media feud between Congresswoman-elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. The debate sparked over a tweet. Ocasio-Cortez retweeting a picture of a migrant family running away from tear gas. The caption saying, quote, "Asking to be considered a refugee and applying for status isn't a crime. It wasn't for Jewish families fleeing Germany. It wasn't for targeted families fleeing Rwanda. It wasn't for communities fleeing war-torn Syria.
Senator Sanders, one of the causes of anxiety for working-class Americans is connected to immigrants. President Obama, as you know, has issued executive actions to permit some 5 million undocumented immigrants who are living now in the United States to come out of the shadows without fear of deportation, get work permits. Would you go further than that?
Open borders.
Open borders.
That's a Koch brothers proposal. The idea, of course. I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of the global poor richer, wouldn't it?
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of the nation state. What right-wing people in this country would love is an open border policy. Bring in all kinds of people who work for $2 or $3 an hour. That would be great for them.
Some of you in the comments section have already had the good sense to call me a hypocrite on this matter. I get complaints from very attractive women and men who are pretending to be women that my OnlyFans never quite presents you with the full length of my penis. If you support me on OnlyFans, mysteriously, it seems to be that you only get to see about 50% of its length, never really the top or the bottom, leaving it up to your imagination as to just how long it might be. So I get messages complaining. What? Is this outside of your boundaries? You're only gonna fuck this chick on camera with half the length of your dick? I'm the first person to admit, what I do on the internet, it's not for everybody. Not everybody's gonna enjoy it. Just recently, I saw a very creative young woman who posted a review of my OnlyFans to TikTok in which she wrapped a bungee cord around her neck and jumped out a window with the fucking headline, "My in-depth analysis and review of what the fuck is wrong with Eisel Mazard and his OnlyFans." I appreciate that. That was a fucking beautiful artistic statement. You go, kid. I'm not perfect, okay? I'm still a little bit camera shy after that last negative experience when I got banned from Twitter for placing my knee on the neck of what was an android, not a human being, dressed in the monkey costume while being surrounded by some very attractive young women, some of whom may or may not be associated with the alt-right, who were dressed as police officers, pointing and laughing and referring to the android as George Floyd. Through no fault of my own, that caused some kind of fucking controversy. But that is not about boundaries. That's not me imposing boundaries on anyone, not even on myself. That's human weakness of a kind that I'm asking you to sympathize with. In the same way that a pregnant woman, for a few months after she gives birth, may not be entirely comfortable having me make love to her in front of her husband and a group of paying onlookers, the way we used to. You sometimes have to take your time and get back in the game. It's not what boundaries are about. Boundaries are about deception, manipulation, and ultimately violence, whether we think of them being applied by a girlfriend to her boyfriend or by a national government to millions or even billions of people. In many ways, there's a close parallel between the career of Belle Delphine that progressed from being a kind of bikini-based tease to outright hardcore pornography, and the strange game of political manipulation that left-wing leaders are engaged with in teasing us, promising us this idea of a more peaceful, multicultural planet, but never quite going all the way hardcore, to letting us see that they're committed to a country without borders, a continent without borders, let alone a planet without borders. Currently, in New York City and across the United States, people are wrestling with the implications of the fact that anyone and everyone from South America can simply relocate by hook or by crook to North America, and they're entitled to free food, free shelter, a certain level of free medical care, a whole range of benefits. But what if you wanted to go from North America to South America? Would any of those benefits, would any of those privileges be extended to you? Now, sooner or later, Joe Biden is going to decide to balance the trade deficit by escalating tensions with China from Cold War to lukewarm war, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And all of us are going to figure out that we ain't got no human rights, and the only boundaries, the only borders we've got are the ones that we can enforce through merciless violence. But until that day comes, I want to leave you with this. More important than the reality or unreality of borders, the reality or unreality of the enforcement of the threats of violence that makes us live our lives in compliance with these abstract concepts, is this: the question of reciprocity. We're so concerned with doing unto others as we would have them do unto you that we don't ever fucking ask if they actually do this shit for us. So what? If the border is open so that all these Nicaraguans have a warm welcome when they arrive in New York City, what's the fucking welcome you get when you go to Nicaragua? If these benefits are not reciprocal, if there isn't true reciprocity, where these countries are giving to our people the benefits that we extend to them, then we are, in effect, being selfish assholes, even in the act of charity. In the same way that I am an asshole because I fuck women up the ass without ever once being open-minded enough to let them do the same to me.
I'd like to know, if you had to become a character within a game and inhabit that world for the rest of your days, which character game would you choose? The main character from Gal Gun, where you get to shoot girls with an orgasm gun. It's a thing. If I'm going to be stuck in a video game world, I might as well be in a pervy one. You would as well, don't lie. No, I'd be in Sonic the Hedgehog. I'd be in Pokemon. You fucking wouldn't be in a pervy game. I'm just honest.